Angela Merkel, the leader of the Christian Democrats, has claimed a resounding success in her country's national elections earlier this week. With me to discuss the implications is Lionel Barber, the editor of the Financial Times. So she and her party have clearly made an extraordinary result, but her coalition partners, the Free Democrats, have for the first time disappeared from the Bundestag, from the parliament. What is this going to mean? What sort of government can we expect in Germany?
Well, first, this was clearly a personal triumph for Chancellor Merkel. She's now got a third term, like Helmut Kohl, like Chancellor Adenauer in the 50s. And her party, with the Bavarian right-wing party, the Christian Socialist Union, got more than 42% of the vote, almost an absolute majority. But actually, she probably did almost too well, because she's going to be forced into a coalition. Now, the question is who? Will it be the Social Democrats? She's governed with them before, but they are very reluctant. There are some serious policy differences, particularly on taxation. Or would she go for a Green coalition, where really I think there are some very grave difficulties with that particular party?
Is it inconceivable that she would actually choose to govern in a tiny minority and at least have her own programme? Is it actually certain that there will be a new coalition?
Well, my experience of German politics, and I was there a student back in the 70s, remember Willy Brandt, hanging on. They don't like, in the new post-war German democracy, to have governments which are vulnerable to votes of confidence. They like stability. So I think it's much, much more likely that she'd want a coalition.
Well, if you look at these alternative coalitions, would it make any difference actually to Germany's policies, either domestically or in Europe or indeed in the world? Is the reasonable expectation that we're going to have continuity, whatever, and the party that will dominate will continue to be Angela Merkel's?
Well, I'm tempted to reply in German, Kontinuität über alles. The fact is that Chancellor Merkel, who's affectionately known as Mutti, has done brilliantly in analysing what the German public want. And what they want is a policy of small steps. They don't want anything dramatical, or radical. They're basically pro-European, but they don't want to bail out the southern countries, the feckless countries. She's just about, I think, found out what German public is comfortable with. So I think actually it is going to be continuity, and that will be somewhat disappointing perhaps to some European partners who would like to see another big step towards greater integration with Germany funding that particular
step. So no
step.
excitement, the banking union suddenly achieved, or euro bonds, or any of these ideas that are floating around. Basically, it will be more of the same.
Well, a mutualization of European debt, where Germany would clearly have to stump up more. I think that just doesn't. It's too much for the German traffic to bear. That won't fly. So the perhaps more like, I think, a good chance of banking union to accompany the eurozone. We do feel at the FT that is a very important component of monetary union, but it'll be on German terms. So don't expect a European-wide depositor guarantee scheme.
No blank checks from Germany.
Nein, danke.
So we know what's going to happen because it's the past, and it's going to be continuity from the past.
Well, I think so. I mean, obviously Germans don't like surprises, and they certainly didn't vote for any surprises here. There is a question, of course, about whether Angela Merkel, who just has been in the heart of the crisis for years, will actually serve a full third term. There's a little question mark there. There's also a real question mark about where the Social Democrats are. If they do go into coalition, they have talked tentatively about mutualising the debt. They've offered some slightly bolder prescriptions. Question is, if they did get into coalition, would they actually support that?
My understanding is that quite important forces in the Social Democrats feel that they've got nothing to gain from a grand coalition. They'd be sort of dragged into following the policies of Angela Merkel, of the Chancellor. They will be blamed for anything that went wrong, but they wouldn't really have any influence on the outcome. So what's in it for them?
Well, I think that is the billion-euro question. What is it in for that? What is it? What do they have to gain? I think there's an interesting contrast to draw between the Social Democratic leadership and, say, Nick Clegg of the Liberal Democrats. He really wants to be in government. He thinks he's got influence, and that they benefit. With the Social Democrats, it's really quite questionable. So they would need some tangible evidence that some of their policies were taken on board by the Chancellor.
So we've still got lots of interesting politics to come, but probably no fundamental change.